with psychological themes. I wanted to touch on this under the branch of healthy relationships because this kind of infatuation or like really intense yet untrue love of just falling in love with the surface of the person, the external shell, could be described as limerence. Yeah. Have you ever been involved in, say, a limerent relationship? Or are there any stories or maybe other productions that you've performed in where you had to kind of like present a bit of a limerent role?
Yeah. That's a really good question. Let me think about that.
So that our listeners know the signs of limerence. So limerence is the word for an obsession or an infatuation that at first feels just like falling in love, but later turns into a painful mental addiction to the idea of perfect love. Over time, limerence can rob everything good from your life. It can almost feel a bit like a love addiction and kind of like a compulsive, again and again, over focusing on the image of the person, not the real person. So an early sign would be like you find yourself thinking about them all the time, even though you aren't very close. You haven't even had full-on conversations yet. And the more you think of them, the stronger your romantic feelings get. And then when you see them, it's electrifying. You feel more alive. You think about past meetings with the person and continue to rehash it. But here's the kicker. Here's a really good sign. It seems necessary for you to hide how you really feel. And you don't talk to them about it. You don't express what you're wanting out of the relationship. And instead, you spend a lot of time calculating how you can bump into them or like how you can make conversation with them about anything that, might seem like tangential to your actual motivation with the person. So it can kind of be a little bit of a cowardly attempt at connection because you're afraid of what real intimacy might feel and look like. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of any roles that I've done, but I feel like I've definitely felt that, especially when I was younger.
mm-hmm.
I feel like when you're like 15, 16, it's very easy to just like romanticize so many things in your brain
Mm-hmm.
and never actually want to do anything about it, especially if you've gone through like really bad experiences.
Yes.
So I think there was 100% like 4 years from like when I was like 14 to 18 where I would just be jumping from relationship to relationship because I felt like I had the like utmost feeling for this person, and then as soon as I kind of got a response, it would die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is hard because then it also makes you be like, well, how do I trust myself in what I'm feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a very big difference between like liking the idea of someone and what you imagine about them and you fantasize about them and what that person really is. And I think the biggest difference is when you find things that you don't like about them
Mm-hmm.
and you still like it about them.
Yes.
Instead of being like in your brain like, oh, they would never do that. And it's like, maybe they would. You don't know them that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really excellent characteristic. And it demonstrates like that impatience with another person. Like if you don't know yourself, if you don't love yourself in a healthy way,
Yeah.
if you don't embrace that, yeah, you're going to have faults. You're going to mess up sometimes. It's going to be super hard for you to embrace your potential romantic partner's faults and their occasional errors because, I mean, you're just two people trying to figure out how to be
Yeah.
in a crazy world. I also just want to talk about the second sign. So, like you were saying, the fantasize about disclosing true feelings, but you don't because on some level you know that would drive them away. Like you know that this isn't a real mutual relationship.
Yeah,
Like, this
yeah,
is
yeah.
really just in many ways you projecting your own stuff, your own maybe idealization of yourself onto this person. Like, oh, how cool would I be if this person liked me back?
Yeah.
And then you just don't say anything about it. And you build up this idea that, oh yeah, of course they like me. They liked my Instagram. Or of course they like me. They sent me a message responding to something I asked about food the other day. And again, it's not personal.
Nope.
It's so general. But in your mind, it has to fill that gap, because anything more would show your cards
Yeah.
and be potentially embarrassing.
Which honestly I think is way harder to figure out with like social media and stuff.
Yes.
Because it's like, now it's not only that you can talk to them in real life, but it's like they can just like a story and you're like, oh,
Yes.
they like my story. But
Yes.
there's like 50 people liking your story.
Yes.
And you just zero in on that person.
Yes.
And it's really hard to know what's true and what's not.
Exactly. I'm glad that you mentioned this, because so Instagram started getting big, at least in Canada, back in like 2017. And that's when I started working as a therapist. And a lot of couples would come in and they would express concern and jealousy around who their spouse was liking on Instagram, the pictures they were liking, blah, 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 blah. And I could see it very obviously, like, this is not a healthy way to bond with your partner. Like, of course, like your Instagram stuff, but there's a real insecurity and a real fear of not knowing who your partner is if you fixate on that so much, and also a real fear and not knowing who you are, that comes from that, like over checking again and again. So if you find yourself doing the last stage of limerence, I would suggest that you maybe talk to a shrink of your own, just to help you kind of come more in connection with yourself, because your relationship to yourself is the most important relationship that you will ever have. You are with yourself 24/7, from the day you're born to the day you die. If you find yourself kind of like reactively analyzing past communications, such as non-romantic texts and emails, if you are stalking that person's social media accounts to keep tabs on them, or just to search for signs that they are unhappy in their real life relationship, waiting for them to potentially become single, you may become convinced that some of the things they say are coded messages designed to sound normal or unrelated to you, but are actually secret messages for you. These are really obvious signs of limerence. Also believing like you're twin souls destined to be together. Again, you haven't even been on a date with this person. Like, this person has not expressed interest in you. And you take a lot of time, money, and emotional energy to pour into this, taking a toll on your life. If you have a partner, this limerent relationship could ruin your existing relationship. And if you're single, that makes you unavailable for meeting really emotionally available and interested future partners. So you're really doing yourself a disservice. So it's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel hopeless at times. It's not a life sentence. And Isabel, how would you describe what it feels like to be in more of an authentic love relationship versus a limerent one from your experience?
I feel like the biggest thing that I learned is like, it's not going to be perfect or feel perfect all the time. Like, I think a lot of the fears and anxieties that you think you've dealt with will come up when you're in a good relationship even. And I think the biggest difference is like, that person is going to be available to you and you're going to be available to that person. Like, you're going to be able to talk about most things. You will have hiccups. That's normal in any human relationship.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it's not a good relationship. Yeah.
I think that's really well said.
Yeah.
And if we were to give them a little preview of the play, does that come back around for you and your main squeeze in the show, or does it remain kind of superficial because of what happens in the middle of the play?
So true. I think it comes back around. I think Cade, who plays Lysander, who's just amazing, I think he does such a good job of being very available and of showing some hiccups in a relationship that still make it work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it comes around.
That's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Did you want to take this opportunity to talk about anything that you've done in the past that you'd like to really highlight in terms of your performance or any kind of production work that you've done, as well as any kind of future projects you'd like to do?
Ooh. I don't know about my past. I'm gonna stay mysterious about it. About my future, I mean, I'm excited about the show, obviously, and then I'm working right now on a cut of The Winter's Tale, which I'm really excited about. So wait for that to come out. That's the only thing I could say. No, it's gonna be a 30-minute theater piece.
Nice.
That I'm excited about. But yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
In the fall or?
I think it's gonna be 3 months. It's gonna be September to November.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah. Keep an eye out.
Yes. And if people want to find you and learn more about you, where can they do that?
My Instagram is Isabel Criado B, or B. So Isabel Criado B. Or you can follow me on my other Instagram and TikTok account called Fangirling with Anxiety, where I focus on cosplay.
Amazing! Yes! And what are your favorite characters to cosplay?
Oh my god. I have a soft spot for Pepa from Encanto. Mm-hmm. I love her so much. I love Encanto. And I love this is done all the time, but like Wanda from Avengers, obviously. Yeah. I love her. WandaVision is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, totally.
And hopefully soon, Charlie from
Yes!
Hazbin Hotel.
I'm very excited about this one, and given the opportunity, I will join you as Alistair.
Yes!
Let's be Charlie Alistair team.
Yes!
Yay!
I'm down.
We can do this. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you today, Isabel. And, break a leg with me tomorrow at our opening night. Wow! 7 p.m. at St. Mark's Theater. Under St. Mark's Theater in Manhattan, not the Brooklyn one. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Saturday Night Shrinking. Good night.
Good night.
When I saw your face, you made me feel like a stranger in a brand